Guardians. The build we're looking at today is not only easy to use, but also excels at any PvE activity in Destiny 2. And we have two versions of this build. One is for beginners that are just looking for a build that can carry them all the way through Grandmaster level Nightfalls. And the other is an alternate version of that same build that requires a few more endgame items to make it even stronger. Let's get into it. Both of these builds revolve around one lovely piece of exotic armor, Orpheus Rigs. This exotic states that for each target tethered by your deadfall anchor, you'll get back ability energy. And while this does give back some grenade, melee, and class ability energy, we mainly use it for the super energy. Tethering enough enemies will give back up to 50% of your super. This makes it really easy to bring a few more mods and fragments to gain back the rest of your super, allowing you to spam your tethers at a pretty rapid rate. At the beginner level, you can take the Void subclass to have extended lengths of invisibility and increased super regen while you're surrounded. While this is strong, especially when compared to most beginner builds, it becomes even stronger when you get access to the Prismatic subclass. So let's start with the beginner Void build. As we've mentioned, the goal for both of these builds are to gain back your super as quickly as possible. With Orpheus Rigs providing us up to 50%, we only need to account for the other 50%. To do this, the first thing we do is bring the fragment Echo of Reprisal. Now we get kills while surrounded to get more super energy back. And that next piece of the puzzle is actually a combination of our mods and abilities. We bring Gambler's Dodge so we can dodge near enemies and gain back our smoke bomb. Our smoke bombs are huge for our survival, so it helps to get them back at a rapid rate. And since we want to dodge near enemies with Gambler's Dodge, we bring two dynamo mods on the helmet and one distribution mod on the class item. Now each dodge near enemies will give back 6% of your super and some extra ability energy. We then pair all of that with the aspect Vanishing Step so that when we dodge, we become invisible, or it extends our invisibility. I then also like to bring Trapper's Ambush, so that way we can activate Quickfall and slam back into the ground, weakening any nearby enemies and making us and our nearby allies invisible. This is huge in team content. To be able to make you and your team invisible allows you the ability to skip through sections of difficult content if you want to. While invisibility is strong, we want to bring a few more fragments to gain more overall survivability. With Echo of Vigilance, if we get a kill when we're at critical health, we instantly gain a Void Overshield. And remember, this season, Overshields got a massive buff and now provide 70% damage resistance. We then bring Echo of Starvation so that picking up orbs will give us Devour. And while Devour is active, any kills you get will heal you and give back some grenade energy. So that's the main concept, but what does it look like in action? Well, you want to remember to use your tether often, mainly when there's a large group of enemies to gain back 50% of your super energy. Then when your super is active, make your way towards that anchor to try to stay surrounded and proc Echo of Reprisal to gain back even more super energy. And if you get into a sticky situation, you can use your melee to go invisible. But if your melee is on cooldown, then dodge near enemies to immediately get another charge for it and to get a bump of your super energy. Then all you have to do is just rinse and repeat this cycle, using your grenades and your weapons to kill any enemies in the process. So when it comes to improving the build, for stats, I like to aim for 100 resilience as the #1 priority. Then we aim for 70 intellect. This really feels like the sweet spot to me. Any more kind of feels like a waste, and any less doesn't feel like you're going to get your super back as quick as you should. After that, we want as high of discipline as possible while maintaining at least 50 mobility, since our dodge will give us back another charge for our invisibility. And as for the weapons, you want to bring the best weapons that you have. In the primary slot, a heavy hitting special weapon can be a good idea for mini bosses. Or you can take a utility weapon, like a blinding grenade launcher, or even a chill clip weapon, like the rocket assisted sidearm that's coming with the new Iron Banner on November 26th. And for that energy slot, a solar weapon with heal clip can be life-saving, though I really like a Void primary weapon. Something like Graviton Lance to help clear out a ton of enemies is a great way to gain back the rest of that 50% super energy that you need. And I like to bring a Void primary so that I can mainly pair it with my heavy weapon, so that we can fully take advantage of Void Weapon Surge. Edge Transit is one of the best DPS weapons, and the best part is, it's easy to get. All you have to do is head to Zavala at the tower and attune for it. Then hop into the Vanguard version of Onslaught and start grinding it out. You're looking for that role that has Envious Arsenal in the left column, and bait and switch in the right column. And for this season, the artifact does have a few perks that can synergize with this build. Conductive Cosmic Crystal can be good, giving you 5 to 8% more damage for all of your abilities, but it only works if you have a teammate that's proccing those stasis debuffs. Tonal Carnage and Debilitating Wave can also be a good combo for more damage resistance and weakening bursts, but that's only if you don't mind doing finishers. This build gives you everything you need for a strong build. Having numerous tethers and ways to make our team invisible makes it good all the way up through that Grandmaster level, but we can do better. So let's talk about that Prismatic version. With Prismatic, we have access to the Deadfall tether, meaning we still get that access to 50% super energy. Now, before you go into the comment section and tell me there's a class exotic with Spirit of Galanor, I know, it's good, but it can be inconsistent, and most players should have access to Orpheus Rigs, unlike a class item with Spirit of Galanor. So the first major advantage for this Prismatic build is when it comes to its survivability. This build has two major advantages over that Void counterpart. First, we can bring Facet of Purpose, and when paired with orb creation mods like Harmonic Siphon and Hands On, we constantly gain a Void Overshield that, remember, gives us 70% damage resistance. And second, we bring Facet of Protection to further increase our damage resistance while surrounded. And then top this off with Stylus Executioner so that nearly any kill we get will make us invisible. And that mainly comes from the fragment Facet of Bravery, that when paired with a Void weapon makes it so that we can get grenade kills and proc volatile rounds. So that means our grenades will scorch targets, our melee will sever targets, and now our weapons will proc volatile explosions to constantly proc invisibility. I mainly like to bring the Strand melee, Threaded Spike. That way I can constantly create a tangle and get back a ton of melee energy by catching it when it comes back to me. And it'll even sever bosses and mini bosses so that you take even less damage. And now that we create a ton of tangles with our melee, I bring Facet of Honor so that when we pick up or destroy tangles, we gain 10% Darkness Transcendent energy. We mainly use our Void primary weapon, so we'll be constantly building up that light meter. So having a way to gain back that Darkness Transcendent meter means that we can transcend more often. And speaking of transcendence, we get a powerful Prismatic Grenade that will stun both Overload and Unstoppable champs. So I then bring Gunpowder Gamble to not only mass wipe out groups of enemies, but also have another way to stun Unstoppable champs. And to top it all off, Volatile Rounds will stun Barrier champs, but we also bring Facet of Dawn to gain Radiant by using our powered melee for another way to stun those barrier champs. So that is the main concept for the build, but what does it look like in action? Well, you want to use your tether on larger groups of enemies to gain back that 50%. Then you want to spam your grenades and Gunpowder Gamble as much as possible so that you can consistently gain the volatile rounds for your Void weapons. And that leads to a ton of orb creation and super energy. Remember to use your Threaded Spike often to create those tangles and to go Radiant. If you pick up or destroy those tangles, you'll get that bump of extra Darkness Transcendent energy. And when you're in trouble, or if you need to stun a champion, pop your Transcendence and start spamming those grenades. So when it comes to stats, just like our Void version, I like to aim for 100 Resilience as the #1 priority. Then again, we're taking 70 Intellect. After that, we want to take as high of Discipline as we can while maintaining that 50 Mobility. As for the weapons, in the primary slot, Rocket Assisted Sidearms are the best option in my opinion. The Call will give you access to Unraveling rounds from Facet of Bravery, or you can bring the new Stasis Rocket Assisted Sidearm that will start dropping from Iron Banner on November 26th, since it can roll with Chill Clip, leading to more AoE damage, but also more ways to stun Overload and Unstoppable champions. And in that energy slot, Graviton Lance is the best option for a ton of ad clearing, though another setup that I like is with the Velocity Baton. That way you can run a primary weapon in the first slot like Wish Ender. The Baton is an area denial Void grenade launcher that when paired with volatile rounds leads to a ton of Void explosions. And then I also bring Edge Transit since it really pairs well with a Void primary and Void weapon surge. Though if you are bringing a stasis weapon in that primary slot, you can opt for Chill Inhibitor, which can roll with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch to deal even more damage than Edge Transit since it's a rapid fire frame. And as for that artifact, we do have a few perks that synergize with this build. Total Carnage paired with Debilitating Wave is really good if you don't mind doing finishers, providing you with stacking damage resistance, extra Void damage, and a weakening burst when you boost it. Curative Orbs is also really strong, offering you another way to create orbs, and when boosted, it will make it so that orbs will heal you on pickup, which is essentially like having the recuperation mod active. And you can bring kinetic impacts to deal a bit more damage with your edge transit. This prismatic version of the Orpheus Rigs build is like the big brother to its void counterpart. Both are fantastic at spamming tethers, and even creating a ton of orbs for your team. But this build excels at taking down more champs and proccing more buffs like Radiant for more overall damage. Both of these builds are strong. But if you're looking for an endgame build for Warlocks, then go check out this video here. Remember, mastering these builds is only the beginning. Experiment with different combinations and tweak your loadouts to suit your playstyle. If you found this video helpful or just enjoyed seeing a new perspective, feel free to like the video and comment down below on what you might change or how you'd improve the Orpheus Rig build. Keep an eye out for future videos as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of Destiny 2. Until then, may the threads of fate be ever in your favor. This is Lucky Mech, signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.